Hello, this is Josh, the Systems and Operation Pastor here at the Crossing Worship Center, where we believe in establishing the believer, strengthening the family, and caring for the community. We are so glad you joined us online. Please remember to click subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Facebook so you won't miss out on any future content that will bless your life. If you would like to visit us in person, we would love to have you at 7325 Risotto Beach Road in Southport on Sundays at 10 and Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. for Warzone. You're about to hear a message from our pastor, Mike McFadder. We truly hope that through this video, the Lord blesses you.
I titled my message this morning, A Broken Housewife. A broken housewife. I told my wife that, and she just looked at me like, where's that in the Bible? But I asked the Lord to share with me some thoughts, and I asked him this week, I said, Lord, I want to preach about you. Now that's letting you look into my prayer time a minute. I said, Lord, I want to share you. I don't want to talk about the formalities of salvation. I don't want to talk about the principles of God. I don't want to just talk about the commandments or our calling or our destiny. But Lord, what is it I can say about you? What is it that you will allow me to share with this congregation in reference to who you are and what you want to say? This is the direction God gave me. We're going to be reading this morning about the Samaritan woman that he meets at the well. Many of you know the story about the woman at the well. She is quite an expressive person in the sense that it's almost abstract in the Bible. She has become a person of notoriety in the church of today. It's something that we preach about a lot because she is such a person that the principles of the gospel almost are not seen when we talk about things like the Word of God and all of its concepts. We have Nicodemus in chapter number 3. He's the rabbi that knew the law and preached about it and talked about it in chapter number 3. And then we go into chapter number 4, and we find Jesus picking up a story, and his disciples are following him, and he is trying very hard to do something that no one really understood what he was doing. And I said, Lord, what is it about this that you want to say to this church this morning? So we're going to pick up this story in John chapter 4, and verse, I believe, we will just start with verse number 1. Let's go. Therefore, when the Lord knew that the Pharisees, if you were here Thursday night, Pharisees, anybody want to go, whoa, easy? Yeah. I just have to come on Thursdays. We get down a little deeper on Thursdays, so I encourage you to come. The Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John, though Jesus himself did not baptize, but his disciples did. He left Judea and departed again to Galilee, and he needed to go through Samaria. Now you need to know that Samaria was way out of the way. Samaria was a city that had kind of been left out of everything because they were such a group of people that they had kind of been the world at one moment and the church at one moment. And anytime you marry the church and the world, the offspring becomes something that nobody wants. I said, when you marry the church and the world, the offspring of that can become somebody that nobody cares about. But Jesus said, it is very necessary that I go through this place nobody else wants to go. Verse number 5. So he came to a city of Samaria, which he is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied from his journey, remember that, he sat thus on the well, remember that. It was about the 6th hour. The woman of Samaria came to draw water, and Jesus said unto her, Give me a drink. For his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Remember that. That's important. That's important. Then the woman of Samaria said unto him, How is it that you, being a Jew, people that were known to be God's people, ask of a drink from me, of a Samaritan woman, who are not known to be God's people? I want to say something to you, that this woman is there, and the Bible indicates that she was a believer. She is not just somebody. She actually had a knowledge of what the Jews were and what the Word of God said about her. For the Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. Sometimes it's hard for me to go through my scriptures because it's hard for me to stop when I see something so powerful. The Jews had no need for them. Who was Jesus? He was King of the Jews. Sometimes we miss out, and sometimes we don't understand that our King, the King of the church, has left no one out. Doesn't matter what you think about them or I think about them, he has not forgotten them. Jesus answered and said to her, If you knew the gift of God and who it is that says to you, Give me drink, you would have asked of him and he would have given you living water. Amen. The woman said to him, Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and this well is deep. Where then do you go to get the living water? Here he comes. And this is why Jesus was sitting on the well. He said, Are you greater? She said, Are you greater than Jacob to give us this well and drink of it himself, as well as the sons of his livestock? And Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinks of this water will never thirst again. Oh. Now you have to understand that this was the first time she's hearing that. She wasn't a church person and had heard that all of her life. He is talking to her now. He is meeting her at her place of need. But whosoever drinks of this water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain. Say fountain. A fountain of water, say springing up into everlasting life. What a powerful statement he gave her. In verse number 15, and the woman said unto him, Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw again. Father, open our eyes and ears to see and hear what you have for us. This is important stuff this morning, and we approach it in that way. Is there anyone here this morning you feel alone? This housewife was somebody who was about her routine. It was routine after routine after routine. She wasn't expecting anyone to come, and she had gotten to the place that she expecting nothing good out of life anymore. She was simply going to the well to draw the water that she needed in her house. Whether she was going back to cook or to take care of maybe her kids or the house that she was living in, she had to have this water, and she didn't have running water at her house. So every day she had to go and get this water from this well. And then Jesus, being who Jesus is, Jesus, the greatest of all time, Jesus is the greatest of all time to all of us and who were broken in life, like this woman, this housewife, that had been forgotten by society and deprived by the loftiness of church life, was met there by the greatest of all time. She was the Samaritan woman, otherwise spoken about in the Bible, calling her a dog. They'd been left out. They were people that were left out. But the Bible says in verse number 4 that Jesus said it is necessary that I go to Samaria. And once again, I want to say to you, church, that no one in Jesus' eyes has been left out. If you're here this morning and you feel like life is about to just overtake you and your situation is much more difficult than you're telling anyone about, but it seems like routine. It's just something you get up with and something you go to bed with. It's not like everybody else's life. It seems like your life is a little different than everybody else's. I want you to hear this. There is a contrast They are in contrast of church life. As I said earlier, it's Nicodemus who was a ruler and a rabbi in chapter number 3. That's not who we're talking about. We could talk about him. He represents a whole new area and personality in the church. He was a leader who said he knew what he thought he knew. However, he stared Jesus in the face and was not saved himself. Very scary. We cannot assume that we are something that we are not. We cannot assume that just because we are going through the religious motions that we are truly born again. Now, I ask this question to a lot of people. I will say to them, when were you saved? And if they cannot answer me distinctly, I say to them, I would check my salvation. Because in the Bible, it speaks of salvation as being a birth, which is, you had any children or have been around anything, birth is not easy, and it's certainly not without experience. So sometimes in our society, we have a church society that kind of blends. But the contrast between Nicodemus and this Samaritan woman, this woman, Jesus says, he doesn't think like you do. Jesus doesn't think like others do about you. Can I say that again? Your perception of yourself sometimes is a big problem. Your perception of yourself is sometimes your biggest problem. Pastor, how do you know that? That has been an issue with me on my whole almost 55 years. Since I grew up, we look in the mirror and we don't like who we are. Now, I know people who do like who they are. So there are some that look in the mirror and say, wow, okay, awesome. Okay, I just never was one of those, never had maybe a couple of moments in my life when it was like that. However, what I'm realizing is that life is not very fair. If it was, God would give me a metabolism like my son-in-law. Tortoise and the hare. My comfort is the tortoise wins. But I'm just like, whoa, life went slow down. He's going wide open, everything's good. He's up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he works all day, and he comes home, and everything's good. I'm in that record that just won't get going. Like an 18-wheeler with 18 gears. Man, they gone. I'm in second gear. Then I get it up to third. And I wonder sometimes, how many people like us are there? I realize, church, after 30 years of serving the Lord, that God doesn't think about me like I think about me. He doesn't think about you like others do. Jesus has a plan to meet this woman. He specifically told his disciples, you go that way, I don't need you today. Because he knew they're not going to understand. They're not going to understand. They're not going to understand why he's going to Samaria. Why would we go there? It's not going to be something pretty. It's not going to be something easy. The gospel of Jesus Christ is like this. This is the way it is, and this is how Jesus thinks about you. He knew you, and he loves you, and he has a plan to get to you. Galatians 3:28 through 29. The gospel of Jesus Christ is not ashamed of you. You may be sitting here ashamed of yourself. You may be thinking, hey, what do I have to offer anything? You don't know me, Pastor. My life is broken down. I'm just going through life. My life now has become the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, 3. And if you don't mind, sir, I don't want to have to anticipate number 4 because I've been let down a lot. Just leave me at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, because I don't want to have to plan on number 4. It doesn't seem to work out for me. Now this is what he says. He says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female. For you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you are Christ's, you have to answer that. You have to answer that question. If you are Christ, then you are of Abraham's seed. Read about that sometimes. It's a good study. It'll take you a while. But he says you are of Abraham's seed, then you are heir according to the promise. You are an heir of Jesus Christ. You're an heir of God. The beautiful thing, he says, if Christ, then you are Abraham's seed, you're heir to the promises of God. God's plan to help you and that are broken and rejected has been such a absolute thought out process that sometimes you think of yourself as very ordinary, but God sees something exceptional about you. I know you don't see anything exceptional about you. I know you see yourself as an outcast. And I know sometimes you look at life and you say, life hasn't been fair to me. And if one more person says, you get what you put in, I'm just going to cry. That's the way we treat people that life has been very difficult on. It's your fault. Well, if God gave us all what we deserved, I tell people all the time, be very careful, even after you get saved, once you get born again, the next few years of life is very hard. Why? Because you're trying to make up the difference of all of the years that you didn't serve God. All the baggage that you're dragging, that everybody knows about. Prophet had no honor in his own country. That's not the only statement. It says in his own house. Took me many years for Sister Leanne to trust me spiritually. Years. All she could think about, if I ever asked her anything spiritually, all she could ever think about was the madman she married. The crazy, lose your temper, sneaky. Has anybody ever been sneaky? Yeah, you lying. Sneaky guy that just didn't get what I wanted, seemed miserable in everything I did. And in the midst of it all, when she and I got together and started dating, everybody went, you don't want to be with him. And my side said, you certainly don't want to have her. Y'all don't do that one to one another? Come on now. We've been happily married for 30 years. We headed to 31. So I'm talking about some stuff that I know, thank you. I'm talking about some stuff that, look, it ain't all been flowers. I mean, her grandmother called me by her other boyfriend's last name for the first 5 years of our marriage. She tries to say what grandmother was old. I said, she's smart as a whip. She knew she was gouging me. Sent me a Christmas card with my name and his last name. Love me. Love Mike. Huh? And of course, my dad has been one of those persons. He said, now, son, get you a down-to-earth girl. And I brought Sister Leanne over, and he said, that's not what I'm talking about. His statement to me, I thought my dad, I love him, he passed away in 18. I missed him. I went by and sat by his graveside the other day, realized he's not there, but I just wept a little while. I missed my dad. And I remember he come by and he said, boy, I'm going to tell you something. Greatest thing he said God ever did for you, saved your wife. I wasn't sure what that's supposed to mean, but anyway, he saw it as my dad a little different. See, the gospel of Jesus Christ is not ashamed of you. Jesus is not going, boy, I just let her in the back door. I'm embarrassed to her. You see, this woman is a representation of something rejected and lost, something very ordinary. A Samaritan woman couldn't be any more left out. A Samaritan woman could not be any more left out. This housewife came every day at the 6th hour. When you study that, the 6th hour is between like 10 and 12, the hot time of the day. She's there because nobody else is. She said, let me just go at a time when I can avoid everybody else. Because I get tired of the speculation. I get tired of the talk. So at my point in time in my life, I'm just putting on my clothes and I go get my water and I'm going back to the house. And you know what? That's just the way it's been for me for a while. I avoid people and I just try to live alone. Now verse 16 through 18 of that same John, here's this woman he meets on the well, and Jesus said unto her, go call your husband. Has Jesus ever done that to you? He will set you up. He will set you up. But he's not doing it in the way we think. He's not doing it to embarrass her. That's the way the church kind of does it. We say it to get you to answer it. You remember the whore in the Bible that, was drug up there to the feet of Jesus, never drug no man up there? Y'all remember the story? Some lady say, man. Okay, and then they brought her up there, and then they said to her, what does the law say? That we need to stone her? While he gets a reputation of whatever that is. Jesus said, he wasn't saying, go call your husband to be embarrassing to her. He had to prove to her something. Verse 17. And the woman answered and said, I have no husband. Now, how hard was that? I don't know what she thought he was going to do next. Go get your husband? Oh, I just came to get some water. I'm not here to talk about my life. That's how many people do at the church. I'm just going to slip in and sit down because I really don't want to talk about me anymore. I've been the talk of the church for 20 years and I'm tired of it. So she just comes in and he says, who's your husband? And just brings up everything that she wants to forget. She says back to him, I don't have a husband. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but I can tell you that's a hard thing to say. Jesus said unto her, you're right. And then he said that you said, I have no husband. And then the next verse, verse 18, he said, you have had 5 husbands. How's that for meeting for the first time? Don't you know in her mind she must have thought, who has he talked to? He's gotten to somebody in my life, and here we go again. You've had 5 husbands. And then he says, and the one you are now have is not your husband. You're shacking up now. Just when you thought your past was behind you. Just when you thought it was all over and you could go on. Just leave me to the problem. You see, Jesus goes and sits on that well, and the Bible says that he is weary and he is tired, and he is sitting there waiting on a woman that's been married 5 times, that's a Samaritan woman, and the one she's living with now is not her husband. Who in God's name cares? He does. He made a specific trip and said, everybody go away because I want some personal time with a person who has nobody in life. I'm not just for Nicodemus. I love him too and will tell him the truth. But every outcast, every modern ordinary person that has ever said, I have no place, just let me in the back door and let me sit somewhere, even though you've had a mess for your life, Jesus makes sure that you know that he is here specifically for you. You are not a byproduct. I am actually here for you. I have studied your life. I know everything you think I don't know. All the little stuff that you think you've hid from God. Does anybody here think we come some kind of hid it from God? You know, he don't know because he didn't kill me. God must not know my problem because he didn't strike me dead, like the Sunday school teacher said. You live with God's knowledge of this white figure of this glowing light with a hammer. I took my son and my grandson to Chuck E. Cheese last night. Don't make the mistake of doing it. Whoa, he said, I'm going to Chuck E. Cheese birthday. I don't know where he got that, but that's what it is to him. Chuck E. Cheese birthday. I said, well, I'm so glad. You know, they got them little things where you put the little thing in it'll pop up and he's hitting. I said, oh, that's the church game. No, I don't. What are you talking about, Papa? But there's that. Hey, get him. Get him. Get him. Get her. Am I telling truth or not? Have I missed it somewhere? Well, I want you to know something. It's not Jesus with the end of the hammer. It's everybody that knows something about you, that don't love you, and that has actually cast you out. Those are the people that came into this thing who have just cast you out. But I want you to know something. When I prayed about this message and I said, Lord, what do you want me to talk about? He said, I want you to talk about the person I am and how much I love this Samaritan woman who has been married 5 times and shacking up with one now. You may think she's ordinary, but I want her in my family. I want her in my family. Do you know what's going to happen when she gets in our family? Y'all never dealt with none of that. You know, verse number 14. Now you understand he just read her mail and told her everything, but she answers correctly. And then Jesus gives her one of the most profound verses in the Bible. He says, I want you to understand why I'm here. Whosoever drinks of this water that I shall give will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him or her a fountain of living water springing up into everlasting life. I'm going to take someone who is empty and fill him. You're about to go from emptiness of no worth to the greatest worth of anybody. I am going to put something in you that everybody will notice how full you are, you old broken housewife. Your daily mundane life of cleaning and picking up and taking care of the kids and making sure the clothes are washed and making sure the underwear's put up and the nasty socks and the old shoes and making sure that the supper's on the table and making sure it's something good. All the while you've done all of this right by yourself. They ain't nobody coming to visit because they don't nobody want to come to your house. They all know the history. They all know you kids. They don't want anything. But Jesus didn't just promise her a new life. He told her, he said, I'm fixing to satisfy you. I'm about to give you something enjoyable. And I'm going to quench the thirst of your soul and fill you that you never have to feel empty again. You never have to feel empty again. I'm going to fill you. And what I'm going to fill you with is something that continues to fill. It'll be a spring. Which when you get up feeling no good, just glory. When you think you're down and out, nobody cares. He said, I put a spring in you that'll just keep filling and keep filling. That's what he said. I want to take you and listen to me, church. Christianity is about being full. It's not about being empty. It's not about being miserable. It's about being healed. It's not about being lost. It's not about being broken. It's about being found. It's about being put together. It's going from unexpecting to expecting. It's going from no help to all the help you've ever thought of. Verse number 15. She's alone but functioning. I said she's alone but she's functioning. She's living but she's not enjoying. If you know how many of those were, let me tell you how many of those, probably over half of this house. You're living but you're not enjoying. I'm telling you, you're saved, you love God, but you're not enjoying it. There's nothing enjoyable. You're functioning, but you just feel like you're totally an outcast. A woman of 5 husbands. Ooh, put her over to Sunday school. As soon as you do, you say, I'm empty. The well is empty. Your pot's empty. Look what she said. And the woman said, Sir, give me this water. Listen to why. That I may never feel empty again. We read it so fast, just go through thirst like it's nothing. You ever been really thirsty? I'm talking about bone thirsty. It's like I was saying earlier when we were singing that song, Let It Rain. It don't mean nothing if it rained yesterday. But you go 5 or 6 months with no rain, let it rain, baby. We're going outside. We're having church outside. Bring your raincoats and your umbrellas because we got to get out there in there. And if the church just realized how dusty it is, nobody wants to come. Because it never rains. Nothing happens. I can do this at home. You ever hear that? I can do this at home. But if something was going on here, they will get out of their house, put on their clothes, and come here. That's what I'm trying to say to you, church. We have to make sure that when people come to church, if they leave with a good experience. Not something broken and busted and disgusted, dry as a bone with nothing happening. Let's get some rain in the house. She said to him, Lord, sir, I'd like to have some of that water, please, that I don't ever thirst again. Listen, nor have to come here to draw again. I get tired of coming here at the 6th hour. There goes the whore. You heard she living, that old boy, didn't you? Y'all know about her. Who's that sitting on the well? The Bible says was weary, dirty, and thirsty himself. Who said, I am acquainted with your grief. Understand being rejected. There's nobody been more rejected than Jesus. The Bible said he came to his own, but his own rejected him. You want to know why? Because he didn't act like they wanted him to. And the church better realize it. He's going to find him a prostitute on the well somewhere and save her and fill her and make her a representation of who he is. You go tell him who you met. She said, he's the Messiah. Good God have mercy. Good God have. Good Lord. She said, give me something. I won't never have to come this way again. I'm tired of this routine. I wish everyone here that's hurt and broken and forsaken could understand and feel that this morning. I wish you could feel full. Get rid of your pain. Let Jesus fill you. There's a place in Christianity for fullness. If you're half empty, something's wrong. Something's wrong. You're not plugged in or something. Because he said, in this life is a life of flowing water. It flows up. What's got it stopped? What put a cork in it? Where'd your joy go and your happiness? Jesus waiting on you. You know what happened? You quit expecting. You stopped expecting. Just go and come. Just go and come. Expecting nothing. Now, every time she went to that well, don't tell me she never went to that well again and didn't say, I wonder if he's. That's the way the church ought to be. We come to church, boring. So bored. There's nothing worse than religion. Nothing. I've been in it. But I want to tell you something. When I met Jesus, I had me one of them Damascus Road experience like Paul. When I Saul, I hadn't always been a disciple or an apostle. I've been a Saul before. I'm talking about somebody thought I was doing right. You know, Saul was thinking he was doing God a favor. And all the time, God just knocks him off that horse. So you're not even going in the right direction. Some of you need to hear me. You're not even going in the right direction. You're so bitter and mad and angry. God hadn't touched you in years. You think you know him, but you're bitter and you're mad. And all the time he's looking at you going, this is not what I want portrayed. You need to feel that Christian life is full. You need to feel that. That has an emotional feeling to it. Anybody here thirsty? I got me a cold glass of bottled water. Y'all hadn't had any in a while, have you? It's really good. I may just pour it on my head. See, right now you're sitting in this air conditioning kind of between air conditioning and heat, our spring. And then you just go, I don't really want any of that. But you come go to work with me. Won't be long. You'll say, you got another one of them? That's what's happening in church. People are running out of water. I'm not talking about in their spigot. I'm talking about in their life. They are running out of water. And believe me, all they want is somebody with just something. Do you have something? Are you as miserable than you look? Y'all didn't think the whole message was going to be a shout, did you? Are we as miserable as we look? My God, I mean, this woman went, she said, I know who you are, I know this, I don't know who you are, but I heard the story. And then my question is, verse number 8, kind of a funny statement to me, and I looked at it and I said, he says, I just thought to myself, where are the disciples? This group of men he called specifically to follow him, he sends somewhere else. And his disciples have gone away into the city to buy food. Yeah, right. Because later they say, he said, I want some food. And he said, no, I have meat that you don't know of. And everybody went, when did he eat? When did he eat? He didn't. He ate of the spiritual fullness of what the gospel is supposed to be about. That's not about just earthly things. It's not about God padding your pocket and giving you land and filling you up and making sure you have everything you want. That's not what the fullness of the gospel is. The fullness of the gospel is having the spring of living water, of something of value on the inside. It's not outside, it's on the inside. He leaves his disciples, the ones he is teaching, and Jesus made it personal with this woman. I don't need you there. Thank God. I want to tell you something. Salvation is personal. And Jesus will make sure that you know that. Because if I just come to save the crossing, that don't mean a whole lot to anybody here. But if Jesus says, I am going to meet you tomorrow in your rough spot, you will be so thankful. It won't be about the crossing at all. It will be about you. Can you remember when he saved you? Good God, have mercy. This thing has become so corporate, it's stale. You guys go that way. I'm fixing to just wait on her. Why don't you go ahead and get you a drink? Well, I'm not here to drink water. Well, that's what we do at the well. That's not why I'm here. Why are you here? I'm waiting on this girl. One lady, yeah, she's a broken housewife. Yeah, she's had 5 husbands. Now she's living with one, so I can't make that work, so I'll just live with them. Ain't live with them or without them. You ever been one of them? I'll do that at the men's meeting. Huh? Have you been one of those you just can't live with or without? A lot of years, my wife and I God bless her. I'm not self-bashing myself. I just know me. What a mess. But in my mess, Jesus was tired and weary and thirsty just like I was. And he says, if I give you all you want, there won't be nothing. You'll be back here tomorrow. If you drink of this earthly stuff, you're going to be back here tomorrow. Back here tomorrow. Back here tomorrow. Is anybody tired of the routine of spiritual life that's dead? Is anybody tired of going back and back and back and never anything changing? Are we tired of that yet? Galatians 4:4-7. Here's my ending. Have you ever stopped, and have you stopped expecting? Have you stopped expecting the joy of your salvation, of being a Christian? Listen to me. There's something exciting about knowing Jesus is coming. And I'm not talking about to get us to take us home. I'm talking about showing up in your problem. Is there anybody here that's learned that Jesus will come when you least expect it, so that when you see him, you're going, ha, 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 there he is. There he is, y'all. There he is. I think of some of your situations that you're in. I think of my dear sister. And when Jesus finally comes, which he is coming, and he's going to bless you and touch you. And I promise you, I can say that prophetically because he has never lost a battle. And when he comes, you're going to see him go, oh, Lord, Lord. What are you clapping about? That man Jesus is coming. Not some dead, dried up Pharisee that has nothing to do but tell me how good he is and how sorry I am. That's what church has been about for the last 20 years. How sorry you are and how good we are. Blah. If I told you I'm going to get me a sign standing out by the road and say, I'm sorry. They'll know what we're talking about. They won't go, in the ditch. Why'd you go off the road for? I think I just saw a preacher that apologized. Really? You did? Where was that church? Where's that church? That the preacher doesn't think he's dropped out of heaven. That you got saved just like I did. That before I knew you and you knew me, he waited for me on the well. And when I got there, he told me just who I was. And I realized that nobody's been able to do that. They know some about me, but you don't know everything about me. But when the fullness of time had come, please hear that. There's a season to your situation. A fullness of time has come. God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, who could not live it, that we might receive the adoption as sons. Somebody say sons. And because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your heart. Because you are a son, not just you, Nicodemus, but Rahab, the harlot. The sons, because you are the sons, God has sent forth the Spirit that you may call him Abba, Father. Verse 7. Therefore, you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if you are a son, then you are an heir of God through Christ.
Once again, we'd love for you to join us in person for our live services on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and Thursday nights for Warzone at 6:30 p.m. Don't forget to click subscribe and follow us on Facebook.